if you look at guys, so I've watched Mike Zimmer coach the Vikings for like I don't know how many years here, and he was a hard nosed like kind of guy that came in after a player's coach. So we're getting the reverse here a little bit with Freeman than what? Because I had Leslie Frazier on the Vikings forever, and he was like players coach, kind of a pushover. And then you go to Zimmer, who's no nonsense, everything like that. Kelly's kind of the opposite to Freeman, but also same thing with Zimmer is like you're the defensive specialist to a team. You're hired as a defensive coordinator. Your specialty is defense. They look like they were just completely overwhelmed. Their offensive line pushed around their D line like it was we were the worst team, obviously, on the field. All these guys are better players, like you said when the first time we talked, is like they're better than the first. They should be better on paper, just looking at how good they are from star recruits, whatever. It doesn't matter. You line up 11 on 11 and on Saturdays.
Yeah.
Where like it feels like they just got socked in the mouth and then they just didn't know what to do the rest of the game and they just seriously kind of keeled over. I was telling Josh before, I was like, you got seriously no help from the offense going 3 and out, but the defense also should be able to stop them, but they look so confused and tired and just not interested.
Well, I wish I could argue. I wish I could argue the point with you, but you hit it right on the head. What I do, as I've told Josh, I don't look. Okay, we're on offense. I'm not looking at Buckner or anybody. I'm looking at the line. Okay, is the line moving forward or is it getting pushed back? And let me tell you, 99% of the time, our O-line was getting pushed back. All right. Look on defense. Their offense is pushing the defensive line back. You can't win. Missed assignments? Nope. Yeah. I agree. There were some missed assignments on some of those passes because they were hell, Josh might have been able to catch the ball. Okay, we missed assignment. But we've been doing this since August. You saw what Marshall had done in the previous games. I don't think they threw anything that Notre Dame hadn't seen. I don't know.
You can't lose that game you can't lose that game flat out. It's
no.
Like even if you're a new head coach, you got new coaching staff, they're just not a very good. Just talent-wise, you want to come in and say, "Hey, everything will be fine," but talent-wise, there's no top-end guys besides Mayer on the team, probably.
Right.
Like if you're getting drafted, if you're looking at draft picks from this team, you got Michael Mayer, and I don't know who else I would name.
No.
So even then, you got. I mean, I think they were saying during the game is like Marshall has a bunch of these transfers. And
they do.
They got whose brother did they have on their team that got that pick at the end of the game?
So the running back is a transfer. Okay, that's wonderful, but the line helped him. Oh, what does that mean about my defensive line? They were huge.
They're not good. That's what it means. They're not good, and you're supposed to have when you have people who are going to playoffs and stuff like that, you would think they'll be better than what they are, because it's the same line that's been there for 2-3 years, yet we're not getting the same kind of success. It almost seems like they don't know how to win under Freeman.
Well, other than the center and Patterson, and you got 2 sophomores in there playing the O-line, and haven't had that much experience. Is that something you can say will get better? Hope so.
Alt didn't even play tackle until he moved to Notre Dame. He went to a school in my hometown.
Yeah.
He played tight end all through college or all through high school at Totino Grace. He didn't play tackle. So usually that's a tough adjustment when you have to go from you got to put on like tons of pounds to be able to come in and play, and you can be fleet of foot, whatever, but you got to be able to handle these pass rushers, and the next level pass rushers is way different than the level of football he's playing at.
Oh,
I
that's
played
true.
at the same level of football he played at, and I'm like, they're not even. They were good, but it's like their offensive skill position players are probably the worst I've seen in a long time.
Yeah,
it's embarrassing to kind of see these guys try to put together an offense when you have no game breaking ability. I mean, how many games do we have under Kelly where you'd have close games with teams that are like way lower on the totem pole when it comes to like talent level? Yeah, last year with Toledo, they got bailed out because of a
stupid. Well, not only that, if the kid, like Josh and I were, if the kid doesn't score the touchdown and just takes a knee at the 1, the Irish don't get the ball back.
Yeah.
I see the kid's point. He wanted to score a touchdown against Notre Dame. Attaboy, except you lost the game because of it. Because Toledo had him.
Yeah. So if you lose a game like that with Kelly, like he's had those type of games every year there's a game where they play close or down to their opponent, it seems like. But they pull out a victory at the end by like establishing a well put together drive and just ending it on like a last second touchdown or field goal. But this team is not built for coming back, or even like you can't even establish the run because they don't have. I was talking before, like how many running backs. This like one running back group is probably the most one-dimensional running back group I've seen from them. And it's just when your quarterback's the one that's rushing for all the most yards in a game, and it's 44 yards. Like you should be able to run all over these guys, but they don't have the same threat that you would have typically. Like Estime is a sophomore, but I don't even think he's more. Doesn't even run with that much power. The guy can't even break a tackle. So it's just like you lose a lot of guys this offseason. You got to hope that you're not going to take it with Freeman starting off slow. You're going to start losing people because you can pretty much say, "Hey, I see what was going on there. I don't want to be a part of that." Could happen.
Well, like I said, I saw no adjustments from the offensive coordinator the second half. You saw what happened in the first half. We've got to make adjustments. If we don't, the same thing's going to happen. And, oh, yeah, it did. Now, a 95-yard drive, how in God's green earth did that happen? Yeah.
When you look at their defense, they're super experienced. Their whole defense is mostly seniors and juniors. So it's like you should think that those guys would be able to take on and be like, "Hey, we played for Freeman for how long? Yeah, it's a bunch of seniors and juniors." I get that your offense is pretty young, but your defense has to stop these guys, even on short fields or whatever, and they were just getting pushed around. This is like their defensive line is. I haven't seen Foskey do much.
No,
like he's supposed to be this. He's supposed to be the. You have like 3 legitimate players that are probably going to get drafted. You got Patterson, you got Foskey, and you got
Michael Mayer.
That's it.
Yeah. No. If I was California, I'd run the damn ball. I'd run it, and I'd run it.
It's hard to tell how good they are because they played nobodies, but we also lost to technically nobody, so it's hard. I mean, they beat UNLV and they beat UC Davis, so it's like
they beat UNLV, close score. Okay, so if you can't beat California, you're going to beat UNLV.
I don't know.
I don't know if they can win. I mean, you got to expect at some point they're going to do something drastic to turn things around because.
Well, they better, sir. Because the meat of the schedule is headed right at you. We're not home. We play California, then we play North Carolina, and then BYU. You're still on the road. Whether you think it's a home game or not, it's beside the point. It's sometime in the middle of October before we get home again. And don't get me wrong, I think you saw the picture where this guy was filming them through the fence on Sunday, and Freeman had said, "Well, that's what I've always done." And I'm thinking, I don't. No, you're trying to be nice, and he is a nice guy. Don't get me wrong. But they need to practice. I guess he let them go on Monday. They didn't have to practice on. No, you guys need to practice Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to get it together.
Right.
It's I don't know if practice is going to just, and getting this system down and whatever is going to just uplift their lack of talent. We go into the season, typically Notre Dame is ranked pretty high every year when they come in preseason rankings. I know you don't like them.
Yeah.
And I don't like them either, but it gives you kind of an idea on where they think they're supposed to be slotted in. And Notre Dame is, I don't know. I didn't assume they'd be unranked. I'm like, okay, I didn't expect 2 games to go like this. I expected to be 1-1, and losing like 3 or 4 games max was like I don't know. I don't know if you're going to be able to beat the lower tier teams on your schedule if you are
play like you do. Yeah, no, it's well, and don't get me wrong, when these rankings came out, I could see Notre Dame 15th. Yeah, I could see 15. 5? No.
The only reason why there were 5 was because they wanted to build up that Ohio State matchup, and that's it.
That's a good answer.
I think they're 5 too because they are always kind of over ranked to start the season. Usually, whenever they've been really good, they've built up on like a lower resume and then worked their way up. When they start out high,
Did I lose you again?
No, we can hear you fine.
When you start out high, it's always brutal. When you start out high on the roster or start out high on the actual rankings and you just drop down slowly, like that's most of the time what I see when they struggle is when they think they're better than they are coming in and then they just lose a game or 2 early. It's when they have to actually work hard and like try to build up their resume, it's usually better. But I don't know. I think it's going to be a work in progress it's obviously going to be a work in progress with Freeman, but I don't know how much time you got to mess around with.
I don't know. I would give him maybe 1 or 2 more years if it's like this, where it's just it seems like it's going into that Ty Willingham kind of vibe at the moment here. And it's scary because you're coming in, you're looking at the recruitment class, and you're like, oh, let's go. And now it's just like, who's going to stay? Who's going to leave? Is Carr going to stay? And that would be very important because we don't know who's going to be the quarterback. Is Angeli going to step up? Is Buckner, after the injury, going to be decent? We don't know. Is Pine going to pull it out? We don't really know at the moment.
Yeah, I really followed when it was the back end of Lou Holtz. So it's like Lou Holtz, you go through at least he didn't go through another George O'Leary experience, but yeah, I don't know. I think Brian Kelly is just people underrate how good of a coach he is when it comes to turning the team around. I mean, you go from Charlie Weiss for 4 years and you come in and you get Brian Kelly and he goes like 113-40 or something like that. That's an insane winning percentage for a guy, but they've always lost those games against teams that are good. And it's just, we can't lose these games against teams that are bad to try to like convince people to come here over going to teams that are just blowing the doors off their non-conference schedule.
Well, what would you say? This is the end of the year and Marshall is 12-0.
If they're in the college football playoff, I will say that
somebody's lying.
I didn't anticipate a question about Marshall going undefeated, but
yeah, well, I don't. And don't get me wrong, I don't know their schedule.
They got to play Appalachian State, and Appalachian State just won.
Yeah, they beat A&M. You think Freeman's on the hot spot?
Everyone was ready to fast track Tommy Rees for leaving to go to another job. I don't know if he'll be able to find his own job anywhere after this 2-game period.
And like you say, okay, you can blame Reese, but he calls the plays. And if you don't run the play successfully, is it Reese's fault?
No, but Reese has to put him and realize his weaknesses of your quarterback, which is throwing the ball down the field and probably not taking dumb sacks. But
yeah,
I think Buckner, we expected the best, but we were hoping for the best, and we didn't really expect him to be that bad. Like, I didn't anticipate him being that bad for 2 games.
The thing with Tyler is, okay, no senior year in high school. He plays a few plays last year, and then you shove him into the Ohio State game against a pretty darn good team. Okay, you watched the game, obviously. You looked at he was on the move constantly. The old adage is 3 seconds and let the damn ball go, because your line can't hold out. I have nothing, positive to say. What's true?
Larry, that old saying, you just got to add 1 less second for their quarterbacks, because you get 2 seconds in that pocket.
Well, and Josh, you and I had great seats, and I'm watching the receivers run down. They're not giving it their all. I mean, they should be out hell-bent for lecture, okay? Because Tyler hasn't got that much time in the pocket. I hate to say it, but I'm afraid we're in for a long year.
It's already over with when they go 0-2 to start the season. It's pretty much like, if you want to go ahead and say, hey, we're going to build on it and you got to build on the season and realize that your expectations are out the window and try to rebuild to see and prep for next year. It's not the NFL. You don't get a better draft pick for being terrible. So it's like, you got to sit here and do something different down the stretch. Because if you get blown out by good teams again, like I was talking to Josh before, this is more of an indication on how bad Ohio State is probably than how good Notre Dame is. Because the number one game, the first game, they only won 21-10. It's like, well, how good is Ohio State really? But these type of games, I didn't expect that much of a hangover game from Ohio State, because that was
first game in the stadium. Everybody's pumped up. It should have been an unbelievable blowout. And like I said, maybe Marshall is that good. I doubt it, but
I don't think
maybe they are. That Sun Belt might be better than the ACC this year, other than Clemson. Because the ACC is terrible to start with. It's just, how do you lose at home with Freeman's first game? How you're supposed to be a motivating kind of coach. It just looked more flat than what Brian Kelly's era was. It just looked more flat than even Charlie Weiss's era. Okay? It just looked really bad, that first
What's
game.
their identity right now? They don't even have an identity as a team. Usually it takes a while for you to develop an identity, but they don't even have one.
I don't know, either one of you coach. I coached 35 years. I can preach to you, Josh, to run a square out. If you don't run the damn square out, is it my fault? No. And just like the other gentleman said, maybe these 5-star, 4 stars that some idiot sitting smoking a cigar said, yeah, Josh Regan's a 5-star. Maybe in high school. But he might not be in college. Can Golden come on the field? No, can't come on the field. If I preach to you, Josh, run the damn square out. Don't worry, coach. No, it's a square.
Gotta have a quarterback that can get it there too.
Amen to that, brother. You know, and don't get me wrong, I hope that Pine can do it. But Josh and I watched him up close, and to me, he looked like a scared rabbit. Well, you
That's
saw what happened to
situational.
Tyler.
Situational football for him. He's not expecting to come in the game, and all of a sudden you get thrust in where you got to like come back and try to save the game. I get why he looked flustered. It's like you're not going to come in as a backup and just all of a sudden just tear it up a lot of times. You can see that sometimes, but the most popular player on a team, especially when your quarterback is not playing well, is your backup quarterback. So it's like the same thing with Kelly. We had that for so long where you have these quarterbacks that have like you play musical chairs with your quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Hey, let's sub in this guy. Let's bring in this guy. I'm going to go chastise the guy on the sideline for NBC so everyone on national TV can see how much I dislike my quarterback making a play. Yeah. Like, at least you know who you have now, so you don't have to so you don't have to sit here and people are going to chime in and say, oh, let's bring in Pine and see how he does. Like, that's all you got. So you're going to have to see how he does this year. I think Buckner probably had that on his mind a lot more than he probably let on. So it's like, you know who it is now. You don't have to worry about a backup coming in and trying to play.
Yeah.
You're stuck with what you got.
God forbid you lose to California. Okay. Is it time? Let these kids play. Freshmen, sophomores. Because you're 0-3 and you know it's going to get worse. Whatever happened to Merriweather? Or how bad can Angeli be compared to what we saw Saturday? We got 3 picks, and Pines was a Hail Mary. Just get rid of it. No, if you're going to get hit, go down. Don't throw the damn thing.
That one underneath the linebacker where he picked it off and that was a bad read.
Oh gosh, yes.
Like you got to be able to see that huge linebacker just chilling out and dropping in his zone right there, and he didn't even look.
No. So, and don't get me wrong, I don't know how many reps he gets, but you've got 2 games. 2 games? 2 games. Marshall played 2 games or only 1 game? 2. All right, so you've got 2 games to look at what Marshall's done. Okay? And you can't figure it out.
They ran for 220 yards. They had 220 yards rushing almost in that game. Like, if you can't slow down a lower tier level, if you're a defensive specialist coach and you can't stop the bleeding on run game against Marshall, like how are you going to expect to do that against teams with actual talent or actual like top tier level talent?
I don't know.
It's embarrassing. Like I'm going to say out flat out right. Like that, my friend is like a super anti Notre Dame guy. He watches Rudy all the time, but he doesn't like Notre Dame and gives me crap all the time. He's a Gopher fan. So I'm like, all right, you guys have the easiest schedule that I've ever seen assembled in a season for a Big Ten team. You don't play Michigan or Ohio State. And you have New Mexico State and you play Western Illinois to start the season. Like, of course you're going to look good. Yeah. So it's like people want to see the downfall of Notre Dame. Let's not pretend like that's a thing. So it's like laughable for people. It's embarrassing if you're a head coach coming in your first game at home. You have a chance to like start a new era over. Like, I'm not underselling that because it's an embarrassing start. And it's not the kind of start you want to see from – it looks just disjointed. It looks like a bunch of first-year guys, which it is. I mean, Brees is in a position where he was an understudy for Kelly forever. Freeman's brand new to the job. It looks like a bunch of guys that are were underqualified for a position that are thrust into it because they don't want to go out and get a different coach. Because Freeman, the players love Freeman. Like, those players are going to be gone in a year or 2. So it's like, I hope they didn't make a mistake going forward and they didn't even like really open up their coaching search because they asked the players and say, hey, this is the guy that we want to bring in. Like, they didn't even do their due diligence when it comes to doing a coaching search to see what kind of coach they could get.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not a Scott Frost situation or something where you got this guy here and it's like, I'm not going to say it's doom and gloom, but it's like
Yeah.
It's pretty
Well,
bad.
Maybe you should bring Frost in as the offensive coordinator.
No. Defensive coordinator, they gave up 700 yards to Georgia Southern, almost 620 yards to Georgia Southern.
Offensive coordinator.
I would bring in. I would think they made a mistake because you have a rookie head coach that's a defensive head coach. You just automatically move Reese up to the position of offensive coordinator, and you assume that he's a newer guy. He's young. He's starting to like cut his teeth as a understudy kind of assistant, and you just leapfrog these guys probably up higher than they should. But I mean, I don't know. It seems like a money saving move by Notre Dame, but it also seems like I don't know if they're trying to just like wrap this present up nicer than it looks, but it's like you have chances. It's Notre Dame. I don't know how many coaches want to come here. I'm sure a lot do, but it didn't seem like they did too long of a coaching search before they decided to just go with Freeman.
Yeah, I don't know how many people he looked at. Schwarbrick. You would hope that he looked at some, and maybe he thought that was not talking money. Maybe he thought that was the best move to get the Iowa State head coach. Yeah, is that a positive?
I don't know. Kelly had a good resume at Cincinnati, but that's a lower level of play than
Well, and Kelly did the same thing at Cincinnati that he did at Notre Dame. But
yep.
Well, and it's like you go different routes. You go Charlie Weiss. You got a couple of guys that are like pretty good, like pro coordinators. Ty Willingham had a good resume. Charlie Weiss had a good resume. Bob Davie was just a money saving kind of.
Ty Willingham got screwed. Charlie Weiss had a hell of an offense. He just never got anybody to play defense. And I think the alumni had a lot to do with getting rid of Ty Willingham because that's where all the money's at. Hey, look at what Coach Holt started with this first year. And hopefully 5 weeks from now when we come back, they've got their heads out of their gluteus maximuses and they can play football. Go on.
I don't think this is the year for it. I think this is going to be a rebuilding year for them. I was surprised I think we kind of looked at it like, oh, this is where there could be issues before the season when we first talked, and like, oh, this is where they probably are weak. And I'm like, I looked at everything. I'm like, wow, everything's coming to fruition we talked about when it comes to just
bad
lack of talent on offense.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't have. A good quarterback can mask a lot of things, but if you have a quarterback that's playing poorly and you have skill position players that aren't good, this is like wide receiver wise in the last like probably 4 or 5 years or so, we've kind of been middling at best when it comes to like pro level players. When we had Corey Robinson and Will Fuller, those two players was like the most exciting I had when you like. Then over the last couple of years, I can't remember anyone we've had that has been like a game breaking wide receiver or anything like that.
Yeah.
So
we can I don't want to say we badmouth Coach Freeman, but whose team is this? How many freshmen are playing?
Not that many.
So whose team is it really?
Well, they seem to be pretty upset that Kelly left when he texted them. So it's like they all wanted him. So
so it's still Kelly's team.
Yeah.
Body wise. Okay. Not even next year. Let me have my juniors, my sophomores, and my freshmen that are the ones that I want. It took Coach Holtz a while. You just don't snap in. Kelly won a lot of games, but a lot of games he should have won anyway. What happened to the big games? Yeah, he played Clemson close, played Georgia close. Close don't count, only in horseshoes and grenades.
Yeah, and what happened with that 4-win season with Kelly when everything turned around after that year?
Yeah.
But Kelly was, till he had a lot of mediocre seasons. The only reason why he's the greatest coach of Notre Dame history
Winningest, not greatest, winningest.
excuse me, winningest, and I put air quotes before that.
Okay.
Okay, because even winningest, I'm still putting air quotes on it, because he had a longer leash with administration. First of all, he had longer tenure than most of the coaches that Notre Dame brings in, other than the legends. Okay, so yeah, he's gonna just luck into, when you have decent recruiting classes every single year in your top 10, that you're going to have maybe a stretch that he had with 5 straight 10-win seasons. So it's just, you couldn't win the big one. Yeah. Maybe this year we get all the bad games out of the way, and then we get maybe a couple natties with Marcus Freeman. I'm a dreamer, okay? But
well,
you got to get...
Just like I said, though, this isn't Freeman's kids. I think a couple freshmen have played, but not a lot. Okay. Most of them are Kelly, who Kelly got to sign. Okay. Well, not to pick on Fauski, but I have no idea what the hell he was doing.
He's like a second, third round pick, probably, too.
At one point.
He's probably fifth at the moment. He's probably a 5th round pick at the moment.
Yeah, probably go to the Colts.
I mean, they've lost, and how much talent they lost from last year to this year, they've actually lost a pretty good chunk. I mean, Kyle Hamilton covered up a lot of warts on that defense.
Yeah.
Kyle Hamilton played the entire field the entire game. He was pretty much sideline to sideline, freak of nature when it comes to his ability to, like, track a ball.
Yeah.
So you lose a guy like that on the back end who kind of helps out with everything, cleans everything up for you. You got to have a guy that's going to be willing to do that.
Yeah. Well, and I forget the gentleman's name that came from Northwestern, but he ain't no Kyle Hamilton.
No.
No.
If there was a halfway decent, it would have been the special teams and the band. Special teams did a good job. Well, the kid booted all the way down to the 5-yard line. Okay, we're still in the game. 3 and out. They're going to have to punt. They might get it to our 40. We're ready to go. Nah. Bombs. Josh and I had talked. I imagine you'd also talked to him also. Where were we afraid the most? The backs, the safety. You saw what happened in the Oklahoma State game. The kid got burnt more than once, but that was the best D-back we had at that position. Okay, well, I ain't no dummy. If I burn him once, I'm going to burn him again. So, don't go away from anything that's working. The only problem with our Irish, they didn't have nothing working.
Nope.
Can that be fixed? Boy, I hope so.
Yeah. So, with the last segment, what is your guys' score for this weekend?
2-0, California.
It's a very big change from last week for him, or first week even. I think we did a prediction last week. Your first week, you're like, oh, we're going to blow the doors off Ohio State.
Well, I will never bet against the Irish.
You just did.
I was being facetious.
Oh, okay. So I couldn't sense the sarcasm.
Okay.
The years of being a Notre Dame fan it's hard to tell.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I've been a fan for a few days. So let's go 28-21 Irish.
I think the offense bounces back. They probably do something similar to that. I would say like I'm not going to say 28 seems like a lot of points for them this week. Like 24 to like 13. I think they bounce back and win this one. Don't quote me. Don't come back when on Saturday if I'm wrong, but I think they find a way to kind of right the ship this game. I think they've kind of got it. I don't know. They pretty much got a pride check here. If you're going to figure out this is your senior year for the entire defense is mostly seniors or graduate transfers.
Yeah.
Like this is your season. If you're going to build up for your resume to play in the pros or to you never play football again, this is your chance to do it. And I think Pine will settle in once he's got some reps under his belt. I think Buckner was in over his head in the last couple of weeks. You just need a guy that can get the ball accurately down the field a little bit. And don't worry about the rushing stuff. It's not like that's what I don't get is like Tommy Reese can't plan for this guy, and he's Tommy Reese like. Tommy Reese was never running the ball.
No.
He was a pocket passer. So now you can pocket pass scheme with this guy. You never scheme with a guy that's like a mobile quarterback like that. Yeah. Like you've had your hands on it before, but you've never been the offensive coordinator. Like just do the Jack Cohn stuff last year.
Yeah. Well, and instead of having spreading the field, no, bring him in. Put 7 on the friggin' line.
They just don't. Their talent at wide receiver is so low that it's just
so bad.
I can't even they've had their ups and downs with wide receivers, but I think they have a guy coming up here next year. Hopefully he stays, but they got to get some big body guys out there that can move the sticks on third downs. Like if Braden Lindsey's your number 1 wide receiver, you're struggling because he is. I don't want to say my least favorite Irish player ever, but he's up there.
See, my score, gentlemen, will be 9-10 Irish.
So they win 10-9. All right.
Yep.
Do you see the score? The first opening game of the year with Iowa, they put up there. I think they won 7-3, and they got 7 points by 2 safeties and a field goal.
Is that right?
Yes. 2 safeties and a field goal. Iowa put up their first game, 7-3. I've never seen. I wonder what the bets were that. I didn't throw some money on that.
Well, what's the spread? 11.
Iowa opening game of the year had to be like minus.
No, I mean the California Notre Dame. I think it's minus 11, but 9-7. No way. Somebody's going to score. Now, is it California?
My wife was gone with my son for a little bit. They had something to go do, and I watched a little bit of it. I almost fell asleep. So if there's any indication on how exciting that was, any alone time I get without a 3-year-old, I get a chance to watch football, and I almost fell asleep. That's usually a bad sign.
That's not a good sign. No.
When they were up 7-6 at half, and then they let them walk down the field and kick that field goal right before half, I was like, this is. How you let them spot them 3 points at the end of the half, then you go down like that. That had to be a big gut punch for them because they got that drive right away.
Well, you heard Freeman say, we got to change this, we got to change that. We might even have to change players. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Something's not right.
It's an understatement.
Yeah,
it's nice like. College, it's obviously you want to look at college versus pros when it comes to like, hey, I need my guys and rebuild my team. It's just if you have your guys, they're sitting there and you have a bad season, your freshman season pretty much as a head coach, like what kind of guys are you going to bring in versus the level of guys you were getting already? I'm hoping it's not a mass exodus of players just deciding to decommit to Notre Dame because of a bad season. It's more on the line than just embarrassing yourselves on national TV because I'm used to watching that. But, at what point do they decide in mass, everyone decides to just, hey, we're all leaving because we want to go to greener pastures here. So it's important to come back and win and finish off your season strong, but it's also important to make sure that you are keeping these guys in-house that you want to have to build your team. So
Absolutely.
whatever you can do to not lose these guys. You already lost the number one recruit they probably had, and I can't remember the last defensive player they had that was on Keeley's level. So
Right. But it is what it is. Hopefully they bounce back here and actually play, because that was garbage last week. Honestly, I told Larry this. I watched bad football on Friday night when I call the satellite games, and then I watched bad football that Saturday, and it was it was bad that weekend. Because how do you?
But both were free. You can't bitch about that.
I mean, yeah, both were free, so I can't really complain when you get free tickets to Notre Dame. But like, you can complain when you get free tickets to South Central.
Yes.
And they're playing an 0-3 team, and they get blown off the doors in high school.
I went on Friday. I've been going to games for a while here in Minnesota. I cover them on Twitter and live stream them, and I've seen a couple bad games. I think one of the games I do like a player of the week, or teams of the games of the week. I put a game. It was 67-35. I thought it was going to be a good game. They ran for, this is Elk River, so this is northern middle Minnesota. They run like the wing tee classic offense that they've ran for since I was a kid. They haven't changed it. They ran for 620 yards.
Holy crap.
8 touchdowns and like 11.5 yards a carry. And yeah, so there's an upstart. Andover is the name. I'm going to that game tomorrow. They have an upstart team. They seriously are kind of like, they want to be a blue chip Minnesota, like kind of private schooly type vibe. And they just got destroyed. I've never seen a game with that many rushing yards in high school.
South Central has played 4 games, and they have scored 16 points. That's it. They've only given up 156. So
that's pretty bad.
And I'm afraid it's going to get worse this week because they got to play a pretty good team out of Osceola.
Yeah, and you remember South Bend Clay, right? You've heard of South Bend Clay, Steve, right? It's a very big school. Well, this team, who's a 2A or 1A school, beat them 54-6, but got blown by Jimtown 60-0.
Yeah.
So, which team are going to find against South Central? And who cares? The 60 team may blow them by 30. So,
yeah. There was a Minnesota school, so I think it was a college. So this is Crown College versus, I think, St. John's. So St. John's is where the winningest college football coach in history was, Gagliardi. So we beat them. I played for UW Eau Claire for a little bit, and we beat them at St. John's when Gagliardi was still the head coach. This was like 5 years ago. It showed up on my Facebook memories when I posted it. They beat Crown College, which is another Minnesota school in college, 98-0. I was like, I could probably go. I got college eligibility left. If I got in shape, I could probably go to college right now. How bad they are. And that was like, how would you want to keep playing? You go back and watch that tape. I would burn that tape, never let anyone see that tape again.
Nope.
98-0, and you're playing it in college. Like, I've never seen that big of a college score difference ever. And St. John's is good. Like, St. John's has been always like Division III. Well, I mean, you don't get to be the winningest head coach in college football history by having bad teams.
Yeah.
So he passed away a couple of years ago, but that was cool when we went in there and traveled to St. John's and beat him. I was like, that was fun. But 98-0. I'm going to a couple games. I got a game on Saturday morning it's the city next to me here in Minnesota that I got to go to. We have a ref shortage. So there's the referees are all, I think they're spread way too thin for games. So they have to spread out the games to be able to find referees that want to go to them. So we've had games Wednesday, this week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So any Minneapolis schools usually play on like Thursdays because there's so many of them, and also they want people to like not get in fights, so they try to do an early one on those games. So they do like early, like 4 p.m.s. Like I remember going there and driving there and playing a game at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday or Thursday sometimes. But yeah, they have it Wednesday through Saturday here this week, and I got to go cover some of the games I'm not covering because I'm not driving like 2 hours away, but I got a 30-minute drive to go to tomorrow, and then I'm driving about 5 minutes away here on Saturday. So it's interesting. You don't notice how small the field is or like how many yards people are getting when you're on the field, like right on the sideline.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, there was a game, the first game I went to, it was seriously the quarterback threw for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. And I was like, I didn't even notice that because I was right on the field. If I saw it from like up high, I'd be able to tell like, hey, this guy. I'm like, oh, that guy threw for 500 yards. In the game, I looked at the box score. I said, no way, that's 500 yards. But, all right. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to watching them. You go from watching high school football to watching terrible Irish football. Then Minnesota, the Vikings look pretty good. So it was a nice finish to the weekend.
Yeah, I was 1-1 also, so I was happy.
I tied.
That's
To
a nice start to the season.
Oh my God, man!
We did that with Daniel Carlson at Green Bay like 4 years ago, probably now, when he missed a bunch of field goals and we had an opening week tie. The Colts have loftier expectations than tying the Texans, though, I think, right?
Yeah, especially when you have possibly having a decent quarterback with Matt Ryan versus Carson Wentz. But they don't show anything like TV-wise for the Colts. So, like, your choices here in Indiana, Chiefs or Bears?
That Bears game was gross.
Yeah.
I turned that off because it was Bengals and Steelers.
Yeah. We got the Bengals and Steelers and the Bears and the 49ers. We used to get the Colts. Can't get my Browns, but
you're a Browns fan too? Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Oh no. If you know you're in bad shape after the press conference when the quarterback is crying.
That's good.
And no. If it wasn't for a 58-yard field goal, we would have lost to Mayfield. But ifs don't count.
Well, Vikings look good, 23-7. They held them. One of the first drives, they had Christian Watson streaking down the field, and Rodgers hit him right on the hands, and he dropped it. And that was a fun thing to see. Then the rest of the game was just dominance by their defense, which was nice.
Yeah. That might be an open division then, with the Bears, the Lions, the Vikings, and the Packers.
I don't want to believe Packers are bad yet because they got blown out week 1 last year against the Saints like 35-3.
Yeah.
But they don't have Devontae Adams, so it's like all my Packer friends, I hear it from both angles because I hear a lot of people that are Notre Dame fans that are like super like, no, they can't do anything wrong. Packer fans are even like even worse. Like the excuses that come out of their mouths after they lose is just, and then just like, oh, nope, we're going to win because I'm like, you guys lost Adams and you replaced him with a bunch of rookies. And
takes time.
And I'm benefiting in fantasy because I have Adams as one of my wide receivers. My wide receivers last week averaged 20.
That must be nice.
Yeah.
I have a dynasty team I've had since like 2008. I had Calvin Johnson his entire career on my team. I lost Godwin. Now I'm struggling because my team, I have Josh Allen. The one year I had, seriously, the funniest year I won the title that year was when Andrew Luck retired. He was one of my quarterbacks. I had Ben Roethlisberger who got hurt and was out for the season like week 1. So I had 0 quarterbacks on my team. I traded Calvin Ridley for Josh Allen when Josh Allen wasn't good. And now Calvin Ridley's suspended and 28 years old and not good. So it worked out for me in the long run. But, 16 teams is a lot more difficult. And I've we've been since 2008. You have individual defensive players on top of it, so you draft linebackers, corners, safeties, D linemen, and then you have.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I have 30 plus people on my roster right now that I've had. So it's definitely fun. It's just hard to have a bad season. I'm used to being good. I've won 4 times and I've probably lost like 6 times. So not a great record. I got the LeBron James record here in the finals here for myself. But no, it's it's a bad week for fantasy for 2 weeks. So I had the fantasy, you had the bad Irish game, bad fantasy games, and then the Vikings won. So it kind of
kind of evens out.
Usually it's all bad.
See, all I had was the good fantasy week, okay? Because the Colts tying the Texans.
Shaq Leonard's coming back though.
How did Chubb do
Darius or
for you?
Shaquille Leonard right now, so that's probably a big boost to their defense when he comes back.
Right.
How did Chubb do for you?
How did Chubb do for me? He was okay. It was okay. Yeah, nice little 100-yard game there.
147, but who counts?
Kareem Hunt helped out on my bench.
Yeah. I'm afraid they're going to get rid of him now.
That'd be fine.
No.
To me, that would be fine because he's faltering my tutties, okay? He's faltering my touchdowns.
That'd be fine for me if I had him on my team and he was an RB1 on a team. Go ahead and kick him loose.
I don't think they will. I'm hoping not. We've got 3 good running backs.
D'Ernest?
What's that?
D'Ernest Johnson. He looked great last year in subbing in games.
Yeah. And at least 4 plays he had both of them in there, Chubb and Hunt.
Their defense is legit. As long as they get Watson back and they're hanging out kind of in the playoff hunt, they should be a good team.
That's if he passes his anger management. I don't know is it anger management or sexual management? I'm not sure.
One of the two.
It might be sexual addiction.
Could be.
You could be. Well, yeah. We had Darren Sharper on our team, and I think he's still in prison for that stuff. So
yeah, no. Yeah, but did anybody prove that he raped anybody?
We're not going. It's player. I mean, you can be whatever. I mean, you could be found guilty of something and you're alleged of it. They're not going to care if it's a player conduct standard.